Well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for spending your afternoon with me to talk a little bit about the UCLA Global Internship Program for engineering majors. My name is Andrew Bottom. I am the Global Internship Program Manager at the International Education Office. And so I'm your main contact at IEO for anything considering this program for the global internships for engineering. Let's go to the next slide. So today we'll be talking about a few different things. We'll start off talking about something that's on everyone's minds, which is COVID when you're talking about study abroad. We'll discuss why you might want to consider interning abroad specifically. I'll do a general program overview of the Global Internship Program, discuss the application, selection, and placement process. We'll talk about the locations that this program offers, and then the costs and funding options for the program. So to start off, study abroad and COVID-19. So obviously this is a topic on everyone's minds. Will we be able to study abroad this upcoming school year? What are the procedures? So currently all of the summer 2021 global internship programs are scheduled to run. As you know, it's a changing situation. It's very fluid. So we're obviously continuing to monitor the safety abroad to decide whether or not, it's still safe or whether we need to cancel a program due to, safety concerns. So we're very sensitive to student timelines. We understand specifically with engineering majors that you all really appreciate having these internship opportunities, whether they're abroad or local during the summertime. So we'll be very sensitive to go or no-go decisions as early as possible in order to give you enough time if you do have to pivot in order to find another internship. We also have virtual global internships offered for engineering majors as well. So I'll talk about those a little bit in this presentation, which will allow you to still intern with an organization abroad or company abroad from the comfort of your own home. But we just really ask you, practice flexibility and patience with us. Obviously, you've already been doing that throughout this entire academic year and the end of last academic year. So things are fluid, but we're doing our best to communicate, everything that's going on our end so that we can still hopefully provide some really amazing opportunities for you this upcoming summer. One thing to pay close attention to is if you are planning to study abroad through the Global Internship Program this upcoming summer, and you need to renew or apply for a new passport, we urge you to do that as soon as possible. Most of the time, it's about a 6 to 8 week processing timeline. However, due to COVID, there's a backlog of passports. So we just ask that you, apply sooner than later if you have an opportunity and you need to renew or get a new passport. If you already have a passport, you'll want to make sure that your passport is good for at least 6 months after the end date of your program. So 6 months after. If it's a little before that, then we would ask you to renew it so that it's valid for longer. So why might you want to intern abroad? So during my time really at the International Education Office, we've constantly gotten questions from students about internship opportunities. We know that at UCLA, students really take it serious of wanting to have practical experience prior to leaving campus so that you can enter the job market, already a really strong candidate. And so we created this program with that in mind. We want to give students a competitive advantage in the job market and also the international job market by having the opportunity to intern abroad. Obviously, you all well know that, a lot of the jobs now are global, and we've really seen that specifically, through COVID and a lot of people teleworking. But we want to give you, the ability to work abroad, to gain industry knowledge while you're abroad. You'll be working with in a new culture, with a new work environment. So strengthening your communication skills, your team building, your adaptability, to be able to grow a global network. So whether that's with your other fellow interns or whether that's with the company that you're working with, obviously expand your worldview, make academic progress toward your time to degree, experience a new culture firsthand, learn more about the U.S. really from a viewpoint from abroad, and then really just boost your confidence and independence by having the ability to be abroad during that time. And obviously, it's an opportunity to travel as well. So the Global Internship Program. Here's a macro level overview. So the program occurs in the summer only. It goes from mid-June through mid-August. The program is 8 weeks in terms of internship and 10 weeks for the online courses. So you'll do an 8-week internship, and then the courses that you'll be taking will follow the summer session A calendar for that 10-week period. You'll take a minimum of 4 units and maximum of 8 units, so 1 or 2 classes while you're conducting the internship. These are academic internships, so they are unpaid, and we have internships that are in country and then some that are virtual. If you're conducting an internship in country, you'll work approximately 32 to 40 hours per week. If you're doing a virtual internship, it will be about 20 to 30 hours a week and be really project oriented and based. So you have a little more flexibility if you need to work from home or you have other responsibilities that will take up your time. The eligibility criteria. So you must be a UCLA undergraduate student. You must have a minimum of 90 units completed by the end of spring 2021. So those units can also include transfer units or AP credit, a cumulative GPA of a 3.0 or above, and good academic standing. As far as the academics are concerned for the program, again, they'll follow the 10-week summer session ACE calendar, so June 21st through August 27th. The mandatory course is the Engineering 195 internship course. This is 4 units. It's a contract course, so if you apply for the program, there'll be additional steps to actually enroll in that course, and we'll assist you with that. And that's more of almost like an independent study in a sense. You will submit a paper at the end to the dean of the engineering school about your experience, but it won't be a traditional course where you're constantly interacting with a faculty member during that course. If you would like to do 4 additional units, we have the Community Engagement and Social Change 130 course, which focuses on intercultural communication in the global workplace. So that specifically follows intercultural communication theory and how it applies to the global workplace. That can fulfill your social analysis GE for students who are in engineering. So if you have not fulfilled that GE yet, that's the opportunity to do that. If not, it will also apply for upper division units. Students who enroll in 8 units for the in-person internship will intern only 4 days per week in order to give you an extra day in order to do that coursework, as a CESC 130 course is more of a traditional course that you will be doing projects throughout your time there. You'll have a final paper as well. If you are interested in financial aid, in order to be eligible, you must also be enrolled in both courses to get 8 units. All right, so as far as the application to the program, so currently enrollment is open. It opened on November 2nd, and it closes for in-person programs on February 12th and for virtual on February 26th. Currently, we're in what's known as a priority enrollment. So between now and December 13th, if you enroll during that time period, we'll be taking a look at that first pool of students in order to make our acceptance decision. So if you are interested in the program, I highly recommend that you apply before December 13th. It's possible that the programs could fill up for the limited number of spaces. So if you definitely know you want to do it now, I highly encourage you to enroll sooner than later, as it is a competitive program. If you aren't sure by December 13th that you want to enroll or not, it's still possible to enroll after December 13th, pending spots being available. And at that point, we would take students on a rolling basis as we make decisions for enrollment. How does the selection and placement process work? So when you're filling up your application, the application is on our website, and I'll provide that information to you at the end of where to find it. But before you even start the application, there's a couple things you'll want to think about before you get started. So first is you'll want to update your resume, because you'll need to submit that with the application. So just make sure it's current, spell checked, grammar checked, as we will provide that to our in-country partners after you submit your application. Secondly, there will be 4 additional questions you'll submit at the very end of the application. These questions involve, more of a personal introduction about yourself, why you're interested in the program, why you chose the specific location of interest, what your career goals are, and how this program will assist you in accomplishing those in the future, and then why you think you'd be a strong candidate. There's no way, unfortunately, to save the application in the middle. So we suggest that these questions you write out on a Word doc in advance, and then you can copy and paste them in once you're in the application. The rest of the application is mostly biographical, so it's quite simple, just some general biographical information to fill out. How the application process and selection process works. So you will apply on our website at ieo.ucla.edu/global internships. Once you apply, I will take a look over the general application, make sure you turned in all your forms, your resume, the questionnaire, as well as make sure that you meet the eligibility criteria. If that's good to go, then I will see which program you selected, whether it's virtual or in person. And then I will put you in touch with the appropriate in-country partner to host an advising session with you. So our in-country partners, a little information about them. We work with partners who assist you in finding internship opportunities in that home country. So for instance, one of our locations is Osaka. So we work with an organization called CRTC Asia. And what their job is to learn more about you and your career path, your interests, your experience, what you're hoping to get out of the internship. And then through their network of engineering opportunities to place you at an engineering firm that fits really with your career goals and what you're hoping to get out of the experience. They also are involved with your housing while you're abroad. They're involved with giving you an orientation when you arrive. They're there 24/7 if you need to call them if you have any issues, whether it's safety or health or with even your internship manager. So they're really there to assist you during your time abroad. They also provide social activities as well with other students, both UCLA and other university students who will be interning abroad during the summer. So anyways, that first initial advising session that you'll do with them, you'll set that up, or I'll help you set that up after your application has arrived to me. That advising call is an opportunity for you to learn more about the internship opportunities on your end. So you can ask them questions about what's available and about your interests. On their end, they're really going to try to feel out whether you're a good candidate for the opportunities that are available based on your experience, your motivation, what you're looking to get out of the experience. And so that call will probably be about 15 to 30 minutes. And then after that call is done, I will hear back from our in-country partners, and they'll let me know like, yep, so-and-so is a great fit, or no, the opportunities of what they're looking for and what we have, unfortunately, don't really match up. Or if we have a limited number of spaces versus number of students who have applied, then I'll be in conversation with them about who would be the best matches, for those spots. So if you're applying during the priority window, which is from now until December 13th, you won't hear whether you were accepted into the program until after December 13th. So it could be late December, or it could be early January, depending on if a lot of students apply right before the deadline's done, or whether students are applying throughout this upcoming month. If you get accepted into the program, we will send you an email, let you know you're accepted. At that point in time, you'll be asked to put down a $200 non-refundable deposit. This basically confirms your spot in the program. After that's done, you'll basically be selected for the program, and up until the payment deadline or the registration deadline, which is February 12th for in-person, or February 26th, which is virtual, there's not a lot you need to necessarily do during that time period. And so basically by the enrollment deadline, you'll be required to either submit your final payment for the program fee or to submit your financial aid application. And I'll talk about that a little bit later in the presentation. So if you pay your fee in full or you submit your financial aid application by the enrollment deadline, after that point, you'll do a secondary call with our in-country partners. This call will be a little bit more intensive. They may ask you to update your resume. They may ask you to write a cover letter. They're going to really try to delve in deeper about what you're looking for and what would be a good match. And then after that call, they will reach out to their network of engineering firms and companies in order to find a good placement for you. And so after they've reached out to some potential on-site managers, they will set up an interview between you and a manager or a company they think would be a really great fit. You will do the interview, it would probably be a video interview like this over Zoom or Skype. And after the interview is completed, you'll report back to our in-country partners of whether it went well, if you liked it, if it's a good match, or whether you have reservations. And so, if it's a good match and it's a good match on the company's end, then you'll be placed and you'll sign an agreement form. If it was not at all what you were looking for and it was way off base, which hopefully that will not be the case, then you can let our in-country partners know and they'll set up a subsequent interview for you until you're placed. So the locations, where are we going? So this is a question on a lot of people's minds. So we have two in-person locations in addition to virtual. They include Berlin and Osaka. We did have Toronto listed earlier on this fall, and unfortunately we did have to take Toronto off. No big issues there. It was just that the organization that we work with, due to some business trying to consolidate their business due to some COVID setbacks, have just decided to take out Toronto for this year, and it will hopefully be back in play next summer. So for Berlin, this internship program for in-person begins June 21st and ends on August 14th, about 8 weeks. Berlin is really kind of known as a tech hub, a startup hub in Europe. So specifically, if you're looking at AI, data analysis, computer science, hardware, IT, software, math, stats, big data, programming, coding, this would definitely be more of a place for you. So some of the more traditional fields like electrical engineering or materials may not have placements there, or they're limited. So there may be possibilities, but Berlin is really focused more on, I would say, tech. So, I would say it's Silicon Valley, but it's, kind of like the tech hub in Europe. So although I know Germany is known for its automobiles, that actually doesn't take place in Berlin. It's more in Munich. So really, its focuses on a lot of techs and startups. So I have some example placements that are listed here in data science and robotics, material engineering, medical mechatronics. But I just suggest you go to our website and you can learn a little bit more about the companies based on their websites and also based on some sample internship descriptions. These placements also are just samples, so there are more placements out there. These are just samples of what students have done in the past. In Osaka, Japan, the program is a little bit later, running June 25th to August 19th. For placements there, they do have some other placements in some of the more traditional fields like bioengineering, chemical engineering, and material sciences, although they are limited, but they do have those placements. They also have computer engineering and computer science, electrical and industrial, and then mechanical engineering. So a little bit more of a broad spectrum in Osaka. Again, I have some examples here of computer science, robotics, AI, bioinformatics. So there are some examples listed on the website, more in depth with websites you can view of the companies and some internship descriptions. Again, just some samples, so they do have more opportunities than what's listed, but gives you a little taste of what you might be doing or who you could be working with. Also a good opportunity if you do see a company that you do like already, you can say, hey, in your advising session, I'm really interested in this company. And they may not be able to place you there, but they might have at least an idea of, if they can't place you at that company, what you're specifically hoping for. And then in addition, we do have some virtual opportunities. So there's virtual opportunities both in Osaka and in Berlin. However, virtual in general, we have a lot of other partners we work with around the world. So we have partners in South Africa, partners in Sydney, Australia, various locations in Asia. Toronto, virtually, we have opportunities. And then South America in Uruguay, Argentina, and Colombia. Specifically for engineering, since such a technical field, that's pretty hard to take a lot of those different areas of engineering and put those online and doing a virtual internship. So the majority of the opportunities that are virtual are more computer science or software engineering oriented. You also have some opportunities to work in different fields of engineering, but it might be more on the business development side. So you could be working for a firm that does focus on mechanical engineering, but maybe you're doing more work on the business development side. So you might get industry exposure, but not necessarily doing some of those technical tasks you would be doing if you were in person. Again, the hours are a little bit more flexible, so about 20 to 30 hours per week if you are doing those internships. It's also a great opportunity if you already know you are unable to travel, whether it's just personally or whether immigration status. It's an opportunity to get an internship with a company abroad, even without leaving the US. Program costs and funding. So the costs of the programs, both the in-person ones are actually quite similar for both Berlin and Osaka. They have the same program fees. The program fee includes your tuition, it includes your housing, your health insurance while you're abroad. It includes our partners' placement fees, as well as their assistance, with anything on the ground while you're there. The difference between the 4 units and 8 unit cost is really just the unit price. So in the summer, it's $279 per course unit. The virtual programs obviously are much more affordable because you're not physically there, having housing or needing health insurance, the travel insurance that we provide, those sorts of things. The round trip airfare is really an estimate that we provide, as well as the meals and incidentals. So in both cases, you might find a plane ticket that's a lot cheaper. So you might be able to go to Japan or Berlin for $1,000, depending on the plane ticket that you find. We put a guesstimate that usually is a little on the higher end, just to give those with financial aid a better opportunity to get a little extra funding if you buy a plane ticket late. And then meals and incidentals, you will have a space to cook in a kitchen for both of those locations in your housing. But depending on your own spending habits, you may be someone who goes out a lot and eats out a lot, or maybe someone that is a little more frugal and eats in. So the meals and incidentals is really an estimate on what you might spend in 2 months, but it could be much cheaper depending on what you do. So financial aid, which I'll talk about in a second, will take into consideration your full program costs. So including your program fee, as well as the airfare and the meals and incidentals. For virtual, all the programs are the same, depending on no matter the location, except for Columbia, just happens to be $400 cheaper for both the 4 unit and 8 unit courses, just because our partner we work with there is a little bit more affordable. So for financial aid, if you're interested in applying for aid for the summer for these programs, you are eligible to do so. So financial aid can be in the form of grants, scholarships, or loans. So if you're planning to apply for aid for next summer, you will need to fill out your FAFSA or DREAM Act by the priority deadline for 21-22, which I believe is early March, like March 1st or 2nd. And then there are some global internship financial aid forms you have to complete as well. So if you're applying for financial aid, there'll be a 1-page document confirming that you agree to pay with financial aid prior to our February 12th or February 26th deadline. And then the actual UCLA financial aid application will go online around March, and that will be on My UCLA, and we'll assist you with how to get there and fill that out. One thing to note is that financial aid in the summertime tends to be loan heavy. I like to be honest with students. So there are grants available if you're eligible for the Pell Grant or the university grant, but unfortunately the Cal Grant is not available during the summertime. And that's just across the board, no matter if it's global internships or other study abroad program or even summer session on campus. There are some scholarships I'll talk about on the next slide here, but just again to reiterate, if you do wish to be eligible for financial aid, you must take at least 8 units, so that both courses. And the loans that students tend to receive are usually, you could get a federal loans like you have during the academic year, but because a lot of times those loans are used during your fall through spring terms, a lot of times the summertime you're offered a Parent Plus loan or a private loan, depending on your own, personal status. So scholarships. So there are a couple scholarships that will be available for you to apply to for these programs, specifically through the IO office. We have the UCLA Global Internship Scholarship. That is for $2,500. And there's also the Wang Middle Income Scholarship for $2,000. So in both cases, you must be a financial aid eligible recipient. For both scholarships, I don't have word yet of whether those will be eligible for virtual internships yet or not, but we'll have that updated on our website before going into winter break, and they won't open until January for those selections. And then the Global Internship one and the Wang, we usually try to get those the scholarships awarded prior to that February deadline, so that you know whether you're able to receive those funds before you commit to the program. Or at least the Global Internship one is. The Wang is from the International Institute, so I actually forget, their deadline might be March 1st. So actually it's a little bit after the February 12th deadline. For external scholarships, if you're a Pell Grant recipient, I highly recommend that you apply to the Benjamin A. Gilman International Scholarship. That scholarship, you could be awarded between $2,500 and $5,000. It's a nationwide scholarship, but about a quarter of students nationwide do receive it. And just through my own personal experience working at UCLA, I would say a much higher percentage of UCLA students receive that scholarship than nationwide. So we definitely have students every year in our study abroad programs that do receive that scholarship, and they can get quite a lot. We also have some scholarship databases on our website where you can just search out some of the nationwide scholarships available to students, depending on your own personal identities, career interests, experiences. So what I suggest for you to do is to go to our website at ieo.ucla.edu/scholarships, where you can view a little bit more about these scholarships, as well as the national ones are listed there as well. We also have a webinar that we did during our Global Learning Opportunities Week a few weeks back that discusses the application process for some of the scholarships. Might be interesting for you all to watch. So that is currently located on our GLOW website. So the link is ieo.ucla.edu/GLOW. And there's an on-demand section where you can see on-demand videos from that week, and you can see the scholarship video there. And so before I get to questions here in a second, just wanted to reiterate, my name is Andrew Bottom. I am the Global Internship Program Manager. My email is listed there, abottom@ieo.ucla.edu. I'm always here to answer questions over email. I also can schedule one-on-one advising sessions with you if you're interested. So I'm definitely here to just help guide you through the process for whatever you might need, prior to applying, and then after you apply and once you go abroad. So without further ado, I'll take a few questions here. So first question I have here, will the program costs be charged under Engineering 195 be displayed as tuition fee on our Bruin bill? Yes. So the way that the program fee works in general is you will get one program fee listed on your Bruin bill that will include the 195 course in it. If you choose the second course, it will actually be displayed as a second fee. So just the way, because it's an optional course, you'll see basically 2 line items on your Bruin bill. But the 195 course will be included in that program fee on your Bruin bill with the housing and health insurance and all that as one line item. And then if you choose the CESC 130 course, that will be displayed as a second line item on your Bruin bill. Another question is, what happens if we pay the $200 deposit, but we can't secure the internship placement through the second call? Great question. So if you aren't able to secure an internship and they're unable to place you, then you'll be refunded. So if they're unable to place you, then you would be refunded your deposit fee. So one thing to note with that, though, is that when they're doing those calls, those advising calls, really give them a good idea of what you're looking for. The idea is that you won't be doing 10 different interviews with different companies and organizations. The hope is that on the first or possibly second try, that they will get someone that is a perfect match for you. So the idea is really that first interview, that it will go well and that it's a good match for you. If you say like, hey, this is not at all what I was looking for, hopefully that won't be the case. Of course, they'll continue to want to help you and find a better placement. But they don't want to hear that, oh, I don't know, and decide that you just don't want the internship, and not have a real specific reasoning, behind that. Something also to note that I forgot to mention earlier is that if one of these programs, let's say in Osaka or Berlin, we are unable to travel abroad, and we know that we're going to make that decision in early February. So if we realize, like, unfortunately, the borders are still not open, we still can't fly there, or they're under a strict lockdown, and we don't believe you'll be able to leave your house when you're there, let's say, then we'll give you the option and say, hey, unfortunately, we're able to conduct this program in person. Would you like to switch your program to virtual? If that's a yes, then we'll just switch you over to a virtual program and work with you, and your deposit will transfer over. If that is a no, I don't want to do virtual, I only wanted to do in person, at that point, we would return your $200 deposit. So in that case, the deposit would be refundable. But if you just decide on your own, you don't want to do the program, it is non-refundable technically. The next question. So can we do 4 units of the internship and an additional 4 units from a different virtual class of our choice to be eligible for financial aid? It's a good question. Yeah, so you just need 8 units to be eligible for financial aid. What I usually tell students in general for the coursework is that some students also will say, oh, can I take a third or fourth class while I'm, abroad? We highly recommend, that you don't take a lot of coursework abroad or additional coursework abroad, because we want the internship to be really your main focus. Summer session courses tend to be, a lot of times they could be 6 weeks long and are more condensed. So a lot of work. And so we don't want you to be, working 40 hours a week and also, doing 20 hours of schoolwork per week. And so the courses that we have, provided for you are really there to complement the internship. I can't technically, force you not to do a different course if you decide to do another one online, but my recommendation is to do the courses that are provided, since they are there to supplement really that experience while you're there. Another question is about passports expiring. So the question is basically, if my passport's about to expire 5 months from the end date of the program, should I renew it? I would suggest so. Some students, you can take the risk, but I really would suggest to renew it. Assuming that you're going to want to travel anyways in the future. Usually passports are good, I think, for about 10 years. So I would just go ahead and apply for a new passport now, earlier, so that you can make sure you get it in time. A lot of countries is required to have 6 months, when you enter the country. So the worst case scenario is you enter and then they refuse you upon arrival. So I would suggest to not risk it and to just, apply for a new passport or renew your passport now. It is important to note as well that for US citizens, there's no visa requirement for Osaka, for Japan, or for Germany. But if you're a non-US citizen, you're an international student here, there may be a visa requirement, and our in-country partners will work with you for those visa requirements. So in the case of Berlin, there's a Schengen visa you would have to complete. And I forget the name of the one for in Japan, but there's an additional visa if you're not on the list of countries that are visa exempt. Another question. How long should the responses be for the questionnaire? Great question. Unfortunately, in my wisdom, I did not put a limitation on the number of characters in the questionnaire, but I would say just try to be concise, have a well-developed, paragraph. So, you could have, a good, 6 to 8 sentences is fine, to really explain and talk about your experience. In some of the initial questions, it might be 4 sentences, so a short paragraph, but we don't need a page about a response to every question. So I would say normally all the questions combined for students usually tends to be a page to a page and a half, I would say, once they're together on a sheet of paper. But yeah, just as long as you get your point across. If you overdo it and it's too much information, that can also be kind of a bad thing. So just try to be concise about it and get your point across. There was a question about visas that I think I just answered. So yeah, again, if you don't have a U.S. passport, you may need to get a visa depending on your country of citizenship. You can email me directly and I can assist you if you have a question with that going into the application process of whether you think there might be a hard thing for you to get that visa or not. So another question, this is about the priority deadline. So the question was, if we get approved for the program when we apply by the priority deadline, would we know around mid-December if we're accepted into the program? Hypothetically, yes. So my goal is to hopefully let students know going into winter break if you're accepted to the program. The caveat, or at least from that initial priority enrollment deadline, the caveat to that is if we have a lot of students who apply right before December 13th, then most likely we won't know until, I won't be able to tell you until early January. So it really depends on the application flow. So I would say definitely by early January, you will know, possibly by mid-December. It really depends on when students are applying. Because once you apply, so if you were to apply, let's say this next week, you can actually do your advising session anytime between now and December 13th. Or if you apply December 13th, you could do it that next week. So that process is ongoing. But if a lot of students apply on December 13th, then of course it will take a little bit longer to see how the application pool sorts out. The next question is about the community engagement and social change course. Will this be a normal class with lectures and exams? How's it going to be? So great question. The class will be more of a traditional course that you do online. It is not asynchronous, however, because all of the students who are conducting a global internship program, whether they're engineering or public affairs or global affairs, will also be doing this class. So the really cool thing is you'll be talking about your experience and comparing it with other students from different, currently interning in different countries. So it will be a virtual class, but it will not be asynchronous. You will, however, be responding to different prompts. So you might be writing, off of other people's, discussion. There'll be discussion boards where you might be responding about other people's experiences, also talking about your own experiences. There'll be projects you'll have to do throughout the class, and there'll be a final, research paper you'll do at the end or final project. So it is a little bit more of a workload in a sense. So that's why we say that if you are doing both courses, you will just intern 4 days a week. So you have at least 1 day a week dedicated to that class. And you also hopefully have free time to explore your new home environment. Your Engineering 195 course, to be honest, does not have a lot of continuous work throughout your time there. It's really mostly about that final paper that you're doing and submitting to the engineering department at the very end. So that is currently all the questions I see. I will wait around for another minute or two to see if there's any other questions. Otherwise, what I can do right now is I'll just send out in the chat really quickly my email again and our website so that you have an opportunity to send me an email if you have any questions. And otherwise, I have one more question coming in. 1 second here. Global internships. And you have an opportunity to check out the programs for yourself. So this question is, in general, how many students from UCLA get into this program? So we are looking for, I would say, in Osaka and Berlin, about 10 to 15 students. So last year we did fill up those numbers. Unfortunately, due to COVID, we did have to cancel the program. We did have a lot of interest in the program last year from engineering students. I know specifically for engineering students, it's really hard to study abroad during the academic year. And so this is definitely a great opportunity to do that and to also get practical experience. So I think it's definitely appealed to a lot of students last year. This year, I'm not quite sure how the response will be, honestly, just for all of our study abroad programs based on COVID and travel worries. And so it will be interesting to see how it shapes up. But so far, we've had a decent interest from students already applying from engineering majors. So I would definitely highly suggest, if you are interested, that you apply before the December 13th deadline. You have no monetary payment you put down until after your advising appointment. So there's really no reason, in the sense of, even if you're a little bit unsure, before December, to not at least apply and do the advising call first. And then finally, where can we find these slides online? So I will post this webinar to our global internship web pages. So both to the Osaka page and to the Berlin page. If you go to the chat, I posted our the address of our website, and you can just scroll down to the engineering internships and click on Berlin and Osaka. It may take me a day or two to get up there, so let me at least have till Monday if we don't get it up tomorrow. I'll post it initially, and then I'll hopefully caption it later. It'll take a little bit of time to caption it, but I should have it captioned as well. So I don't see any other questions, but again, thank you so much for joining me. I'm here for any questions that you might have. Otherwise, have a great night, and I hope to speak with you all soon.